All right. Here we go. How's everybody doing out there? This is Wayne from Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast, and I am joined tonight by my lovely co-host and wife, Michelle.
Hi, everyone.
How is it going out there, Michelle? Anything kicking in chat yet?
Well, just ready to be the only podcast that goes down an escalator tonight.
That escalator down that special little rabbit hole.
Absolutely. Yep, there's me with suitcase. I'm ready to travel.
There you were. You just went past us. You're ready to travel, man. Laughlin, here we come. Or Tahoe or someplace. We got to get someplace.
Hello to our friends in chat. We see you there.
Yeah, we got Ghost Dragon ZW. Hey, we got Chad Smith. What is up, Chad Smith? Welcome. And we got M. Monty. Or is it Monty? Welcome to the podcast, man. Thanks for joining in and watching. So tonight we're going to be talking with the three amigos. And then we got one amiga.
Yeah, we've got our friend from across the pond.
Yep. So here we get going. Who's from across the pond?
Well, was it Erica? Laura? She's joined us. Do you see it?
No, I don't.
Oh.
Maybe that's on Facebook because we are on Facebook
she's
page.
On Facebook.
Okay. All right. Well, there we go. So welcome everybody. So there she is.
And from Argentina.
Yeah. All right. Welcome. All right. So today we're going to take a deep dive into the last podcast we released, which was episode 42, the answers to life, universe, and everything, taken from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So we had Bill Konkolesky on, who was also featured in the Netflix original. Well, I guess it's original now. They took over the Unsolved Mysteries, and he was part of the Something in the Sky, and he's the state director of MUFON here in Michigan. So we're going to talk about that and how that went. And then for the second half of the show, we're going to have a special surprise guest come in, and that'll be after the break, and see what kind of conversations happen after that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in our other host, co-host, guest host for this episode. So I don't know, should we do beauty before age or
Burton's cracking up?
All right, so let's bring in the young buck first here. Sorry, guy. And we've got Burton from Lost in the Dark and from Follow the Reaper podcast. Burton, how's it going, man?
Very good. Very good. Thank you for having me back again. These are tons of fun. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, technically this is only our second live stream, honestly, like doing it in this format. So
yeah, the one last week or
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago now. Mm-hmm. See, that's what being teachers happens. Our brains are like melted. It's before holidays and everything.
Oh, yeah. All right, and then let's bring the old curmudgeon on. We got the smartest guy and only guy around. It's Guy Merritt. He's back.
Hey, get off my lawn.
Yes. So let's get into this a little bit, and let's just start talking. So, Burton, I'm going to kind of hand this over to you real quick, and I want to see what your initial thoughts and ideas about the interview, because you told me you listened to it and stuff, and what your takeaways were. And I don't know. Tell us, man. What did you think?
I thought Bill was a really interesting guy. I'd never, besides, because he was in the Unsolved Mysteries thing. That was kind of the first time I'd ever really seen him in anything. I've seen tons of people from MUFON in different places, this and that, but I'd never seen the guy from Michigan, but I thought he was very interesting. One major thing that stuck out to me was, it's obviously a really good thing that MUFON has, like, they allow you to be anonymous, people that want to report their whatever it is that they saw or experienced, but they don't want, they want to remain anonymous. They don't want anybody to know about it for whatever reason. And he said some of that stuff that they can't release that he's seen is like really, really convincing. In a lot of ways. I really enjoyed the interview, especially in that. I felt like it was a good overview. I felt like it was a really Was this the first time you two had ever talked?
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, I was really surprised by his books, and we can get into that a little bit more, but I was kind of taken back a little bit about his own experiences. But yeah, that was the first time I ever had a chance to talk to him.
Yeah, so I was definitely taken back by some of his experiences as well. They're pretty fascinating. So that's, and that's, at least for me personally, as someone that has, does a bunch of like interviews and stuff like that. I find that like the first time I have someone on, it can be a little like chunky sometimes. It can like be a little tough to kind of get into it. I'm sorry, I'm hearing something. Are you guys hearing that?
It's background music.
Oh, okay. All right. I was like, whoa,
I tried to make it very low.
I wanted to make sure it wasn't coming from my computer. Sorry. But yeah, it can be, it can be hard to get into a groove the first time you ever talk to someone, especially if you're meeting them virtually online like this, it's hard. But what I always find is that the second time you talk to them, it's smooth, and then you really can get into the weeds and stuff like that, because you've already kind of had your introduction. You already kind of know each other. So I think that this was a really good like first overview. I thought on both sides it was a good interview. I thought you asked really good questions, and he gave good like overview answers. But I feel like the next time you guys talk, you'll really be able to get into the weeds, and I hope that happens, and I look forward to it if it ever does.
Yeah. Guy, what was your initial takeaway? I know you've had experience with Bill before, and with the 94 thing over on the east side of the state. And he even mentioned being kind of mentored by, I believe, the woman that interviewed you about your triangle sighting. So why don't you take us back a little bit through that, and let's delve into that a little bit.
Well, he mentioned that, Shirley Coyne, who was, she was the, she held the position that Bill holds now. She was the state director of MUFON back in '94 when I had my sighting. So I called the airport eventually. First I called the newspaper, then I called the airport, and then I can't remember. I called a bunch of people, and finally somebody gave me a guy out on the West Coast. I got the number of MUFON from a guy at Flint's airport. I'd never even heard of MUFON. And he said, well, call MUFON. He gave me an 800 number. And I called this guy. I don't know who it was, but he said, well, you need to call the state director of MUFON in Michigan, Shirley Coyne. He said, she lives in Flushing. Do you know where that is? And I said, yeah, I live in Flint. It's like 6 miles out of town, or, I was about 8 miles from my house, whatever. So yeah, I knew Shirley Coyne, and she's a really, really nice lady. Interestingly, and I don't want to speak whereof I don't know exactly, but I believe this to be the case. I find this interesting, and it relates to something we were talking about that I'm not going to get into prior to the actually going live. She was married to a fellow named George, and for years they were very involved in, MUFON. And if you go on YouTube, I wish I would have got the name of the episode. There's an old episode of the Sightings television program on YouTube, and it features Shirley and George, and they were driving from Flushing to Flint for a MUFON meeting, and they filmed this black unmarked helicopter following them the whole way, and you can actually see the helicopter in the video. But yeah, she came to my house and took my I had this experience on Friday morning, and I called her on Saturday, and on Sunday, her and another lady came to my home, and there's a form you fill out, and I had to draw it and all this and that, and so we have that mutual. She was his big mentor for a long, long time. But what happened with Shirley that I was alluding to, it's my understanding, and I'm pretty sure this is correct. Her husband passed away, George, and she remarried. And after she remarried, I don't know if it was the influence of the gentleman she married or not, but she got really weird about all this after having been in it for years. And I mean, this is a woman who told me the day I filled out this questionnaire I filled out this form for them. She, idly shared with me. She said, sometimes I get depressed, because I have a son I never see. And, or I don't see him very often at all. He's 16 or 17. And I said, oh yeah. And she said, yeah, he lives aboard one of these ships. And I was like, I'd just seen this UFO and I was like, what? I mean, I made a video years ago, and I said, I was wondering at that point, is she Copus Mentis? Is this woman crazy or what? I had no exposure to this UFO stuff. I didn't know what she was talking about, but very nice lady. And anywho, but what happened was after her husband died, she decided that these were demons, right? And that it was all demonic, and got really off into a religion thing, and kind of dropped all of her contacts that she had with kind of the UFO community, which I thought was kind of sad, but at least that's what somebody told me who I trust. And I know she kind of fell off the map at one point, and they said that's what happened. So is that true? I want to put a little caveat on that, put a little asterisk right there. That is what I heard. So it's, that after she remarried, she really changed directions. And I knew Shirley a little bit, and talked to her a couple times, and Bill knew her. In fact, I've been to 3 MUFON meetings a long time ago, and they were all right. And I met Bill, and Bill actually asked me, kind of cornered me one day and said, hey, we're going to do, 1 week where we have people get up and present from the group, instead of they normally bring people in from, around the country, and they do a presentation, you have dinner, blah, blah, blah. And they said, what we're going to do is we're going to have people from our group get up and share their stories. And would you share yours? And I didn't think at that point I could get up in front of people and talk about it. And I just was like, no way, dude. I'm not even trying that. And felt kind of bad about it, because I really like Bill. He's a good guy. And, I just couldn't do it, man, at that point.
Yeah. That's understandable.
Yeah.
Well, Ghost Dragon here is saying that's what he heard through research on her and others as well. So yeah. I mean, we've had these conversations before where these experiences that people have, including all of us here. I mean, I don't think, Burton, you've been in the UFO experience, but more paranormal, ghost related type of experiences. And these things that happen they do something to you, man. They really get inside your head. But I mean, they're so wacky. Who's to say what's going on or what's true and what isn't at a certain point? This is somebody's experience. So, that's what they are, saying. I mean, who's got the proof, right?
I wasn't judging. I was just sharing that. I mean, there is kind of a schism, there's got a couple of, there's a few. I mean, there's a couple different tracks for this whole thing. One of which is people have these experiences and go, this is the manifestation of what was foretold in the Abrahamic religion thing that I'm in, and it's demons. And some people go that way. And I'm not judging. I'm just saying that she then sort of cut ties with a lot of people, which I thought was sad. And really a likable lady. She's very, very, very nice. I'm not just saying that. I really liked Shirley. She was warm and kind, and she was there for me when I needed somebody to tell me I wasn't
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. All right. So, Michelle, what do we got going on in chat? I know you've been watching over there. Who do we got? Who do we need to say hi to and welcome? I see we've got
I
11
think,
people watching so far. So
yep,
that's
and
good.
I think that we've been able to say hi to everyone. Ghost Dragon says she wasn't the only one that started seeing things that way.
Right. A lot of
Yep.
people do. A lot of people do. I mean,
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that make that connection between UFOs and aliens and the spiritual or the religious aspect of it. And I think it's two separate things.
Yeah, I was gonna. Well,
I mean,
I would say too. I said there's different tracks, and I said but there's actually more than two because there's some that go the spiritual route, which is, in my view, is not necessarily the religious route. You know what I mean? Like pulling things from, say, the Christian Bible necessarily, and some people just get very spiritual, and that's not exactly the same thing. We're going down a rabbit hole here, but I'm just saying.
Yeah,
it's my understanding she went the kind of classic religion. It's the demons which were described in the Bible and yada yada yada, and so those people tend to then distance themselves from much the people who think differently. So that's what happened. But so I thank you to this dragon fella. I don't have a thing that shows who's on. So, but
that's Ghost Dragon.
Ghost Dragon. Yeah, I think that's kind of common knowledge. That I didn't want to say it categorically, but if he's heard it and I've heard it, it's, therefore let's start a huge rumor that's not true. But I think that's my understanding. It's what happened. So,
yeah.
Hi, Chad Smith.
Yeah. Everybody is Chad Smith. So so we got Chad Smith who said hi to Guy, and we have Cassidy is here from Oracles and Beyond. Ghost Dragon. We got Anna from Argentina.
She's in Germany.
Yeah.
Don't
Germany. Yeah.
Don't cry for her. What's that? Don't cry for me.
Yeah. Don't cry.
Don't cry for me, Argentina.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah,
weird reference. My brain, it's old. It just goes, just kind of flips out there for a minute.
I remember she's running things over on, I believe, YouTube in Germany.
Yeah.
She's laughing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So there was a couple of things that I wanted to bring up, and one of the first ones is I'm going to share this with everybody here. Find the tab. Here we go. All right.
Oh, come on, man.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So this is off of, and this is what I was talking to Bill about, and he was very diplomatic about it. Right. I mean, he has to be. He's running. Hey, Gail. How are you?
Gail.
Thanks for joining us.
Airborne trash.
I've got my boutique friend who's on saying hi.
All right. So looking at this, though, this is on Yahoo News, but it's just basically a copy and paste from the New York Times. Now, the New York Times became very famous in 2017 when they broke the UFO Navy videos and things like that, talking about UFOs are real, yada, yada. And the Navy had to come out and say, yes, those were real things. And now here we are in 2022 with still no new UFO report, which they were supposed to deliver on Halloween. Well, at least a public report. Nothing's there. And here we have the U.S. government reportedly finds that UFOs are more likely to be airborne trash than aliens. Okay, nobody's saying aliens just yet. We don't know what these things are, but you can see how they start to play the games with this. And I asked Bill about this, and he was like, my whole point with this is they let something out of the bag probably that they didn't want to. They took the genie out of the bottle. It got leaked. or it was a planned leak or whatever. And now all of a sudden they want to put it back in, and they use words like trash and aliens when, it could be government, material or craft or whatever you want to call them, experiments. They could be, what is it? Defense contractors working on new things and testing it on our pilots. If they're doing that, that's pretty bad. Probably shouldn't be doing that. But anyways, to me, and by the way, I like the way that Yahoo News put this in their sci-fi section, right? So we're going back to the whole, UFOs are really just airborne trash. Hint, hint, you guys are trash looking into this stuff. What do you guys think? Have we been fooled?
Well, here's the thing. That's only one person's perspective, maybe a small team. So like Ghost Dragon said in chat, really, did we expect anything more?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. Do we expect anything more? Not really, but also, okay. I get what you're saying about the usage of the specific word trash, but I don't know. When I read that, I don't really, I guess I didn't interpret it that way, but as a direct dig at least. But I mean, in reality, what they're saying is nothing surprising. It's the article literally said most things that people might identify as UFO is probably airborne trash. Now, I don't even necessarily agree with that, because I feel like airborne trash would more often than not, if it looks like, and I could be totally wrong, but more often than not, shouldn't it just look like a meteor or something, like something with that with a tail and stuff, especially if it's coming through the atmosphere from outer space. If it's not, then we shouldn't even see it at all, really. So I don't really think that's a good explanation for what a lot of people are seeing to begin with. But with MUFON, with any other place that gathers lots and lots of UFO reports, the consensus is a large majority of these sightings are explainable. Like somewhere between like 80 to 90% are usually explainable, but it's that 10% that we still can't explain that are still very, very worth 10 to 20% or whatever that are very worth looking into. So what they're saying here is this is what probably makes up for most of the misidentification. Okay. Yeah, of course, most of them aren't going to be UFOs. A lot of them are going to be identifiable if looked at, from the right perspective or with the right eyes, or, some strange, unusual aerial natural weather phenomenon, whatever. But so, yeah, it's nothing. It's not saying anything to me that's anything surprising or yeah, of course, most of it's going to be something misidentified, but some of it's not. And everybody, there seems to be a consensus, even with the government, that some of them are not. And those are the ones that are interesting, obviously.
I don't know,
they're
man.
all interesting, but
I think they got their official office and they got their money, and now they want to hide everything back away and not let anybody know. That's just me. I mean, that's my I don't trust them kind of a thing.
Oh, no. Yeah. No, I don't trust them as far as you can throw them, but it's, so take everything with a huge grain of salt. And
yeah, exactly. There it is. Yep.
And hopefully maybe they don't, maybe they start to slowly, maybe they'll turn over a new, fingers crossed. I'm an optimist. Like maybe they'll try to put out slightly less information, but a little piece here and there, breadcrumbs or something,
Well, I want you to think about this. When you were a kid, did you ever have one of those 64 pack of Crayola crayons?
Yes.
Did you ever have the crayons all fall out of the box?
Oh yeah.
Could you ever get all 64 crayons back in the box?
Definitely
No.
never in the right order. but
Exactly.
Usually, yeah,
And that's
usually
kind of
not.
the analogy that I'm
Oh,
going with,
shoot.
because I'm looking at what Ghost Dragon is saying. And that's the first thing that pops into mind for me, is that, this information and the videos and everything came out. And now we're not hearing as much,
Right.
in the media, and things are, a little bit quieter, except for the podcasts and the different shows that are on YouTube and StreamYard and such. But yeah, it might be another 10 years before we see another report.
But
So there's still a few crayons out there, though.
oh yeah, for sure. But you know what though? I do think if there is a cat that they let out of the bag, the main part of it is that it's not as what's that word? It's not like as you're not going to get as much negative feedback anymore. It's not stigma. It's not as much of a stigma anymore. And God, the amount of, and yeah, there's a lot of like problems with a lot of them. Don't get me wrong, like infighting and stuff like that, which is ridiculous. But there are so many YouTube channels and shows and paranormal communities out there that cover the gambit. Like it's something that clearly has a massive hold over the consciousness of not just Americans but people worldwide. And it's something that everybody seems to like a lot of people, even if they have a passive interest in it, a lot of people have an interest in it, even if they hate it and dismiss all of it, that's still somewhat of an interest. And yeah, like I think that whether or not the government comes out with any more reports or anything like that, Wayne, you had someone on once that said something like, we are the disclosure. Like shows like this are the disclosure.
That was me.
Okay. Yeah. All right. There we go. Well, and people like us coming together and people uploading videos to social media and,
or just having conversations like this.
Yes.
And that was one of the things that talking to Bill about this and the connections that are being made, not only with people that have experienced things, but also with people that just want to know. And there's a lot of people out there in the community that are interested in learning this stuff. But here's something I want everybody to think about. Think about David Fravor, who was a Top Gun graduate and instructor, and he came out with, I believe it was Jeremy Corbell, if I remember right, on Joe Rogan, talking about his experience with the Tic Tac and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Then you have Ryan Graves from the East Coast fighter squadron out there in the Navy, and they're reporting all of these different UFOs over the oceans, and they're tracking them drop from 80,000 feet to above the ocean, up and down in a matter of seconds. So are all of these guys incompetent and they can't identify things that they're seeing on their IR, and they're putting themselves out there and their reputation, Top Gun pilots and things like that? And now we're being told, well, it's a lot of airborne trash or misidentifications, or foreign drones is the new thing, which I think everybody kind of knows. Countries spy on other countries using various things, sub-launch drones and things like that. But we don't have any kind of drones that can break Newtonian physics, like going to, 7,200 miles per hour in a split second, covering 60 miles in 5 seconds.
I think it was 72. Well,
Jack
72,000 miles an hour.
Yeah. And he, saying that he didn't know what he was observing on the radar, and then what he was getting from police officers and all those people on the west side of the state. I know what they're talking about when they say airborne trash. They're thinking literally like trash bags and things that have been lifted, empty trash bags, things from construction sites that get lifted up in the air and they get taken off by air currents. It happens. It does happen. But
Wait. That's what they're talking about?
yeah.
What?
Yeah, literally. See, that's what I'm saying. That's guy, jump in here, man. Guy, jump in here. Bring some clarity to our younger brains. I'm not that much younger, but you
Hell,
straighten us out, guy. We're on your lawn.
I'm listening to this stuff, and I mean, there's this tug and pull. A couple things I thought. One thing is that I heard somebody say this the other day. I don't recall who it was, and they said, if only 5% or 3%, if only one thing, and you can absolutely prove it, one thing, forget 5%, forget 1%, if one solid object traveled 60 miles in a second, went 72,000 miles an hour, that right there, boom, just one thing, forget the 5%, forget 2%. If you can absolutely show with data, which Jack Bushong did, that something did that, well, we know there's something else that's not. I mean, we keep dancing around this stuff. My experience was really bizarre. I mean, with my coworkers missing and everything that happened. This is all bizarre to me. There's going to be this tug and pull. It's kind of like I was sitting back and I was listening to you guys talk, and okay, so it's like, did they accidentally drop some stuff, and now they're trying to put the genie back in the bottle, or is this all just some crazy, excuse my language, some crazy ass thing that they've orchestrated, where we're going to drop some stuff, then we're going to put it back in the bottle, then we're going to drop some more stuff. I mean, it's just like this house of mirrors. I don't know who's doing what. I mean, Burton made a good point. You look at all the if you look at social media and the independent media, I mean, there's just this mountain, this avalanche of information, these channels devoted to nothing but there's videos, there's experiencers, and when I say experiencers, there's people with marks on their bodies, there's people with implants. Think of Terry Lovelace. There's a lot of people that have those. I mean, it's just this totally bizarre porridge of the government denying what we all know is real, whatever it is exactly. I mean, it's something esoteric. It's something different. And I call it test runs. Yeah, maybe that's a great comment there, Ghost.
Well, the next comment here, I think
I like that.
Look at this one.
Yep.
War of the Worlds, remember?
Oh, I thought that's very good. Yeah, thank you because my brain is not. I'm hitting on like 4 cylinders tonight, but I've thought the same thing, that maybe they're just like, let's say this, let's drop this and see what happens. You know what I'm saying? And then maybe reel it in a little. It's like, some kind of really refined fishing of, okay, let's throw this out. Okay, just a little back out, a little, are they going to freak out? If you're sitting in my shoes, I'm in, I don't want to say where. I've got some friends who I absolutely know. I would bet my life have been abducted. I know my coworkers got abducted. If you're the government, what do you? I think it was Bill that said this. I think it was Bill said it's like a balance sheet. It's a cost benefit thing. It's like, if you think about it, what's in it? What on earth? I think he made this point, which I've thought myself many times. What is in it for a government? And when you think about what a government is, it's a control mechanism. It's supposed to protect you and control you and make you safe and yada, yada, yada. What on earth would be the positive, right? For a government to come out and say, oh, by the way, there's these guys that are from like Zeta Reticuli or wherever they're from and other places, and they evolved way before we did. And they come here and they take people and they do experiments. And by the way, there's nothing we can do about it. I mean, that's
what Bill had said there.
Exactly.
Is that
they're never going to tell you that. If you keep waiting for that,
they lose their power. Yeah.
You are like out of your minds, with all due respect to anybody who believes the government's going to do that. They just won't do that because it's usurping. They're cutting their own legs off. I mean, they're like, they rule by convention. We go, okay, you guys can run this place because you make us safe and you provide us with power and clean air and clean water, supposedly, which they sort of don't. But I mean, if they said what I just went through, I'm not going to say it again. These beings are from elsewhere. They can take you, yada, yada, yada. We can't defend against them, which I personally suspect is all true and have pretty good evidence to support. They're never going to say that. They can't say that. It's like they just wouldn't do that. That's like, it's suicide. I mean, politically, literally, but I mean, they're just like, why would if you're a guy that's into power and you're a head of government, you're going to come out and say this? I mean, you could wait for this till you're 8,000 years old. They're not going to do it because why would they? Because that's shooting themselves in the temple. I mean, they're not going to say that.
Yeah, you're right.
They can't tell you what I know is true, but I'll tell you what, they also can't tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about because I've seen this stuff up close. And so that, my thinking, my head is not for rent. I know what I've seen. I know what's happened. I don't farm out they can tell me anything. I know it's BS when it's BS. I know what these beings can do. I don't know where they're from. I don't know what they are exactly. One thing I've thought a lot about recently is we're all leaping to the more, and I think, Wayne, you alluded to this earlier. You said something about, people jumping to their interdimensional, they're this, that they're from another timeline. They might be. Some of them might be. That's absolutely possible. But why don't we start with, what is it, Occam's razor? What the most obvious, simplest answer is probably true. I would say among the things they are, very likely, would be three-dimensional beings on the order of us that, evolved on a planet, may perhaps appear different, different physically, but they're, I'd start with that. I'm sure my thinking is that this is just what I'm inclined to suspect. I don't believe anything. I'm a suspector, not a believer. I strongly, strongly suspect. Belief scares me. We could do a whole podcast on that. I strongly suspect that some of these beings are just guys, on the order of us, perhaps have evolved much, earlier, and they have greater technology, but are from planets that are, there's billions of planets. I mean, why wouldn't you start there and just use your head? I mean, and then maybe some of, I know I'm in a group with a gal named Deb Cobble who's had a lot of experiences, and she said the same thing. I thought maybe some of them have literally evolved so much that they can move through dimensions, that not so much that they were interdimensional to be, who knows what's possible at the end of that spectrum, but some of them are probably just dudes kind of like us from other planets. I mean, you can start there, and maybe it's other stuff too, but it's almost a mathematical certainty that they would be out there, and some of them would have evolved before us. And everybody's sitting around like, well, I don't know, maybe there could be other intelligent life, and maybe it could get here. I mean, if you think about the math, it's almost a virtual certainty, in my mind, and whatever that's worth. And I'm wrong about most things, so I wouldn't. I got straight D's in algebra. I wouldn't listen to me. But this seems pretty,
but saw what you saw.
This seems pretty simple to me. There's some dudes, they're visiting here. The government ain't going to say it. Wait for that till you're blue in the face. With that, I'm out.
Yeah, well, look at what Ghost Dragon says. He's laughing about it. And he says, and by the way, folks, the ETs have been taking you and testing on you. There's nothing we can do. Sorry,
the
government.
That's my point. Yeah, they're not going to say that, man. It ain't going to happen. So we can sit here and we can ruminate and we can kick things around. We can have fun, and I can drink coffee and, have to turn off my camera because I need a cigarette. It's driving me so batty. But the reality is your government is never, ever going to, convene a press conference and say, okay, and the things I said. There's these guys, and they're way evolved. They got 8 lobes in their brains, and they got little beams
Well-
that they can beam you. No, they're not going to say that.
You know, Guy, I've just started calling it closure.
Yeah,
That's what we need. You know, we don't need disclosure.
I like that. Yeah, I know where
We
you get
need
that.
closure.
Yeah.
Because all these people are running around trying to figure out the answer to a question or to put a puzzle together that we can't even communicate and get along in this weird ufology community with
That's the problem.
and Burton had hinted on this
There's a lot of
a little
infighting.
bit ago.
Oh, it's crazy.
Because there's people that are in it for themselves. They're in it to make money. You know,
that's crazy.
I don't know. It's
That's crazy. But there's
it is.
And the infighting thing is huge. I was in a group. I'm not going to give you the guy's name. He's very well known in ufology. He's had crazy experiences. They're real, and he talks about how he has spiritually ascended through these experiences. But he also spends a ton of time. I got out of the group. I did it for a year or so. He spent a ton of time bashing Richard Dolan, everybody else, just speaking horribly about these people with whom he didn't agree. Well, I mean, you know, Richard Dolan may not be right about everything. Maybe he's not perfect. Good Lord, I know I'm not perfect. I mean, but he's brought a lot to the table. He's worked hard. And this guy was just bashed him unmercifully. And Dr. David Jacobs, he talked about him like he was this devil. And I'm like, we got to stop arguing amongst ourselves to this and, you know, just castigating each other incredibly. And, oh, your ideas, you know, I mean, there's so much infighting. It's just pathetic. But thank you, Burton, for that idea, because it's true.
Wow.
I'm going to stop my cam for just a minute. Let you guys, when I come back, I'm going to be out for a minute. When I come back, I want you guys to have solved all the riddles of the universe. Okay? Because I bought a t-shirt, so you owe me. I want the thing settled.
I don't think $20 is going to cover the what we have to try to solve. All right, Burton, go for it.
I did really like one thing that he hit on. He said, "I'm oh God, I can't remember the exact word. I'm a suspicion, not a belief guy, or something like that. I suspect things or something like that." And that just reminds me so much of one of my favorite movies of all time, Dogma, and where Chris Rock in it, he's like, I'm an ideas guy. People kill each other for, I'm paraphrasing. He's like, people kill each other for beliefs, but nobody kills each other over an idea, and an idea can change. Whereas a belief is something like that is unchanging. At least that's the idea. And that's I totally agree with him on that. That's where I'm at on all of this stuff, because at the end of the day, no one is right about everything, because we don't really know anything. So, you know.
Yeah, Burton's going to have us talking about the movie Dogma now, and Alanis Morissette being God. I haven't seen that movie in so long, and I love it.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen that one.
I smoked a half a carton of cigarettes while I was gone. Just for the conversation.
10 seconds.
Well, that's a superpower that you inherited from the aliens in '94.
Yeah, they didn't give me a lot of self-control.
Well, you know, Guy, you bring this up and for full disclosure from me, just like how you feel about when people were kind of tying in the UFO alien thing to religious aspects of things, I also go the route that same way with the Space Brothers, and they're here to heal and save the planet and all that stuff too.
I got to interrupt you. So you know we're on the same. I don't want to lose this thought, and at my age, thoughts fly out of my head quick. Literally yesterday, I was watching Preston Dennett, and he had a video about 7 amazing healings by aliens, right? And Preston and I have a really good relationship, and I didn't want to say, I wanted to write underneath that thing or send him an email and say, Preston, I know
tell him to come on.
I know about a half a dozen people that have got serious injuries from these things. So what about those? Anyway, but go ahead. Yeah, I'm with. My point is, I agree. I'm not with the. Yeah.
We need to get him to come on the live.
Oh, he's a great guy. He is one of the. I'll tell you what. He's one of the nicest. He may be the nicest guy I've met, who's really ascended to the heights of this ufology thing. He's really a good-hearted guy, and he means well. And I generally agree with him. But I mean, he's kind of goes the route of the space. And he's such a nice guy that if you had him on, you could ask him that, or I could ask, and he'd be cool with it. He's a great guy. He's just
I've seen him talk quite a few times. He's interviewed 1,000 people, something like that.
But he really leans heavily towards the Space Brothers thing. And I'm like, what about my friend who's had 2 surgeries on her corneas, and my buddy whose neck is all screwed up after his house was filled with a blue light in the middle of the night, and he woke up because he felt somebody snap his neck, and he's never been right since. I mean, it's not like they always heal people. And it was so funny because literally yesterday I'm listening to Preston basically run the Space Brothers thing. And I'm like, well, it ain't always like that, buddy. I mean, I love you, but anyway, go ahead. I shouldn't have interrupted, but that was so germane to something I had just seen. And that I had the same thought that you said, that it's, I've said it a million times. It's not one thing. This is one thing we're doing. We're going, the aliens, we'll accept the idea that we'll use that terminology. Well, I think that's a good enough word for it, but it's probably, 100,000 or a million different kinds of them, or a lot of different kinds of them, some of which may be very kind and want to see us ascend technologically and spiritually and physically and everything else. And some of them might not like us at all. So,
yeah. Anyway. All right. Well, I don't know. Burton, did you want to throw anything else in there? Michelle, how about you?
Nope. I just figured that we were waiting for our guest.
Yep. And
to arrive soon.
Yep. And we're going to be taking a break. So Burton, you can have the last word before we take our little 5-minute break here.
You know what? I do have one little thing to throw out there just off.
Let's go.
I said not to, I don't want to take up too much time or anything, but one thing that you said is this is more people looking at potential extraterrestrials as like angelic and things like that. And that just, I don't know why this made me think of this, but there's this show that if you guys have never seen it, it's all fictional. It's a fictional show on Netflix called Midnight Mass. And without spoiling anything, it kind of does that. It's a story that's sort of about something like that, but it's not an alien. It's a different sort of creature, which we all know well. I don't want to spoil it at all in case anybody hasn't. It's been out for a couple years. But it's so good. It's one of my favorite things I've seen in a long time. So if anybody wants to watch it, I don't want it to ruin anything for them. But it's a creature from folklore that we all know very well, that like kind of is viewed as an angel, as opposed to the more sinister thing that we all know it as. And it's just like looking at it through a different sort of lens perspective. And they do it through sort of like Catholicism and things like that. It's a fascinating show, really great show, and has one of my favorite monologues ever done on television.
What's the name of the show?
It's called Midnight Mass, and it's on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
I believe it's a Mike Flanagan. I love that guy. I think it's one of his shows. And so yeah, what you saying that thing about extraterrestrials, this show kind of does it with a different supernatural creature. But I definitely think that could totally explain a lot of ancient mythology.
I know we're going to break, but I got to say this. You just little turn of phrase there. Something you said struck a nerve. You said not aliens, but different supernatural creatures. And, I would say that, not aliens may not be supernatural creatures.
Well, supernatural from the context of a human, at least.
I'm not real comfortable with that word, but
Okay.
Hey,
fair enough.
there's the Arthur C. Clarke quote. You know, if somebody's technology is so advanced,
Right.
we would look at it as magic.
Well, no, but actually, Guy is right, because if it was created anywhere in the universe, it is then by definition nature.
that's all I'm saying.
So
That's
it
all,
is natural.
I've
Yeah.
said this, and
Yes.
I think in everything we've done, I'm going to say it again. And you go to these South Pacific atolls, these remote islands. Every time they saw their first white European with a camera, they went, "Oh, it's a god! Oh, it's a demon!"
Right.
I mean,
It's
no, it was a
perspective.
dude with a camera.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
he wasn't supernatural. He was some guy that they'd never seen before.
Yeah.
And they leaped to this supernatural stuff. And I'm like,
All right. Well, look, guys, it's been about 53 minutes that we've been at it. So we're going to go ahead and get our surprise guest in here in about 5 minutes. I know that they have arrived and they are hiding backstage. And we're going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break. Everybody stretch out. I'm not going to say smoke them if you got them, because, well, you know, probably not looked upon very well, but
How about fill it if you need to?
there you go. Get your coffee going.
70.
Yep.
Too young
All
to
right.
be 70. I feel
So,
every
Guy
day.
and Burton, I'm going to send you to the back here real quick. And just for everybody else that's out there, before we take off for the break, if you are interested in helping to support the podcast or this show, one easy thing that you can do, it doesn't take any money or anything like that, is subscribe to this channel, share it out, and let your friends know that may be interested in this type of conversations to, you know, join us and come hang out and have a conversation like Ghost Dragon's having a good time here tonight. And Eris, we see you. Welcome, welcome. And with that being said, we're going to take a quick break and we'll see you in 5. There is 4 minutes left to this break. Three minutes left, everybody. Just 3 minutes. 2 minutes left, everybody. Get ready. 2 minutes. One more minute and we are back. One more minute. All right, everybody, we're back. All right. Hey, everybody. We are back. And one thing I wanted to add before I start bringing people back on here is that with the, if you're interested in supporting the podcast and doing all that, you can also find the links in the show description below on YouTube. So there's links to our link tree and everything. So if you have issues finding us on any platform or a merchandise store or anything like that, it's all listed in that link tree. So just wanted to get that out of the way, and bringing back my lovely co-host for the night. There she is, my lovely wife, Michelle. Michelle, how was your break?
Short, and it's cold.
Yes, we're starting to get snow out here again. So,
Uh,
and then once again, we are going to be joined by Burton. Hey, Burton, you made it back alive?
Yes, indeed.
And then we're going to bring in Guy. Guy, welcome back, man.
Thank you. The old man, the old curmudgeon to come in and gripe.
the curmudgeon of the group.
All right.
Get off my lawn.
All right. I think we officially got off your lawn and we got back into the stream here. So, all right. With that being said, without further ado, I'm going to bring on our secret special guest for tonight. Very excited to have this person come on and chat with us for a little bit. Who knows where this is going to go with this conversation, but this lovely lady has been on our podcast before. She's going to be coming up on our next podcast this weekend coming up, and that is the lovely Gemma Jade. Gemma,
hey guys.
Thanks
What's
for
up?
joining us.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, you never know where it's going to go.
You never know.
That's what makes it exciting.
One of the things I did want to bring up with you on just jumping right into it a little bit is you've got a new book out, and that cover freaks me the hell out.
I designed it myself.
Well, great. Thank you for that. Awesome.
Stuff your nightmares are made of?
You want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. So it's the third book. It just came out this past Tuesday, and it is Shadow Entities, Sleep Paralysis, and Beyond. It was originally going to be called Beyond the Sleep Paralysis Demon because there are so many people, my clients, my friends, just people that watch my channel and listen to me that have been coming to me about their experiences with shadow entities, with sleep paralysis, either together or separately. And I've been terrorized by shadow beings since I was little. They used to try to get me to chew on wires and jump in front of trucks. And so with so many people, like it's becoming a thing now. I was like, I need to really address this just from my kind of unique perspective as a medium and an oracle. And I hope that it, brings some help to the people that are really struggling. It's something we don't know what they are. I mean, even with me, like I know what the entities I encounter are. Shadow people, I do not know. So there's a lot of theory. There's really no fact because we don't know. But I hope that it helps.
Yeah, and now Gemma, you kind of cross over like into that different realm because you talk about extraterrestrials, but then also extra dimensional beings and all of that. You're kind of all over the place when it
Yes.
comes to that. So with our conversations that we've been having today and our interview that we did with Bill last week, what are your thoughts on where are we, like, what do you think we're going wrong here? Or what do you think we've got right? And what's your feeling on all of this stuff?
Well, I think just the community as a whole, I can just see really one thing, and that's that nobody's taking, like, it's all about personal experience, right? So you're going to base what you believe, what you perceive, your opinions and theories on your personal experience. Because again, there's really no fact except what an individual knows about it. There's nobody that can say, I sat and spoke with a shadow person and this is what they are. So the community is not coming together. That a lot of the community just wants to go back and forth about, theorizing and stating their own opinions instead of everyone getting together and saying, well, I know this, and we might be able to make more connections. Now, I listened to just a little bit of last week's interview that you guys did because I was having a movie and pizza night with my son and I didn't realize the movie was like 3 hours long. So, but it was so crazy because where I turned it on was when you guys were talking about synchronicity and the Glimmer Man. And the Glimmer Man is something I've talked to you guys about before on your podcast. And I just thought it was crazy because it was very synchronistic that I should happen to turn the interview on at that time. But I think what everyone, a lot of people have a lot of different things right. And if we could just come together instead of being so divided, I think as a community, as individuals, I mean, that should be the point, to spread the word, to gain knowledge, not to be right or to prove that you're correct. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I even say it in the book, like, I'm not trying to prove anything in this book. I'm like, I just want to open some minds and hopefully give some people my experience and my knowledge and hopefully get some of someone else's and try to understand what's going on, especially with the shadow entities, because I think they are several different things. And I think some of it is really bad. And I do believe 100% that no matter what they are feeding off of us.
Okay. And that kind of goes to what Guy was saying just a little while ago. It's like your experience is kind of your own, but how do we say you're right or you're wrong? And it's kind of like what Rick Davis says right here. If I know that my experience, my personal experience is truth, how can I deny your experience is real?
Yep. That's exactly it.
Really. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how else you would, rather say that. And I don't know. Well, one thing I do know, Michelle, you know what I know? We got to give a huge shout out to Ghost Dragon, who just signed up and bought us 3 coffees.
Hey.
You gotta love him. I just love him.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Ghost Dragon. We appreciate that. And trust me, that coffee money will be used for great coffee.
For coffee.
As you can see. Yeah. So, all right. Yep. Everything is connected in one way or the other. Now that's interesting because I know Native American mythology talks about everything being like this cosmic web.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
I don't know, but Gemma, we got to get this out here and we're going to cover this on the podcast this week when we sit down and record. for this weekend. But would you mind telling everybody what happens to your phone every time you try to send a text message? Because this
Oh my
is
gosh. It's so weird, and I keep trying to get a screenshot of it. I don't know. I have over 300 contacts in my phone. I just want to say that, okay? So every time now, it's like more now. It used to be every once in a while, but I use the voice to text. Like I have a toddler, I have a date, like I'm too busy. So I use the voice to text, and I will look down and say I'm saying, you know, I'll meet you at Starbucks at 5:00. Don't be late. My phone will say, I'll meet you at Starbucks, Michigan UFO sightings and paranormal encounters podcast. And then it'll erase and then say what I said out loud. So there was a time, this started happening like almost a year ago, where I messaged you and I'm like, hey, are you guys okay? Because my phone keeps bringing you guys up. It's the only contact it does it with. And we don't speak. Really, if we're going to do a show, we talk, but we don't speak on the phone for it to be like, you know, like Ghost Dragons, I speak to him several times a day, every day, but it doesn't do it with him, just you guys. So I don't know what the connection there is. But I do believe it's something, because it doesn't do it, not even sometimes, with anyone else's number. It just cuts right into what I'm saying, no matter what it is, and just puts the title of your guys' podcast there. And then immediately deletes and goes back to what it was originally doing. And I'm going to get a screenshot one of these days real quick. Yeah.
That's that's crazy.
It's really weird. Haven't figured it out yet, but
Burton, did you want to throw some questions or something toward Gemma? I mean, you're kind of like our ghost hunter. More into the paranormal and some of your experiences. And I know, see, I don't tell Guy and Burton who I'm going to bring on. So I bet you guys were waiting for Bill to show up, but Bill was going on Coast to Coast AM tonight. So,
I did want to, I was going to say that off the top, just so everybody watching knows, you know, it's all a surprise to Guy and I as well. So it's not like we have anything prepared. Well, yeah, because I definitely, you know, I've heard every episode of the Michigan UFO podcast, so I've definitely heard this episode, the episode Gemma was on, and it's nice to meet you, Gemma. It's very nice to talk to you.
Nice to meet you guys too.
I guess if I had any, like, just off the top of my head question, I mean,
You really put him on the spot.
Like, yeah, a little bit, but it's all right. Like, kind of like, maybe like, in your experience, in anything that you've ever experienced, that you would describe as paranormal in your life, what is your favorite one? What of all of those experiences, what is your favorite one to share with people?
Well, I do like to talk a lot about the Glimmer Man, the translucent humanoid, the predator entity that's been called so many different things.
Oh, yes.
Because of my personal experience, like before I came into really doing paranormal stuff on YouTube, I was terrified of it because, like, ghosts, demons, the devil, like whatever. But this thing, I was like, oh my God, it's real. Like, it's real. It's not just this myth. And then I start getting into the, like, how did Hollywood get this right in the 80s? And then I'm like freaking out. And it was trying to basically lure and kidnap my then almost 2-year-old. So I like to get that out there to people who are like, I'm going to go hunt the Glimmer Man. It's like, be really careful. You know, my favorite experiences where I like want so many more extraterrestrial, but as far as talking about it and getting it out there would definitely be the predator entity.
It is that is something that has been coming up recently. Like it was something I'd basically never heard of before a few years ago. And what you mean by predator is like the movie Predator when it's cloaked, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's why people call it, I call it the Glimmer Man.
Yes.
But it has been called so many different things. And I wanted to do a book on that entity, but there's just not enough information yet. Even if I were to do encounters, I wouldn't have enough for a book at this point. So that's something that I really like to research. I really love to hear the encounters because I'm convinced there's an extraterrestrial one, and then I'm convinced that there's a government one that hunts the extraterrestrial one. I don't think it's one thing.
Okay. Yeah, I mean there's like YouTube videos of government produced like cloaking costumes and stuff, like suits or whatever that sort of do that. That sort of glimmer. Yeah, that'd be a way to describe it. Yeah, that's an absolutely fascinating topic. That one, mirrored men. I don't know if you've heard of the mirrored men.
No, I've heard of static men.
Static men, I've heard of them. I
did a video on them. They were very interesting, but mirror men, no.
Yeah, that one's like where people will see they could appear as like shadow figures, or they could appear as not as just like someone standing there, but it's usually three men and their movements all mirror each other perfectly. Like they all move in unison, like in a weird unison. Sort of thing. If you've never heard of it, for everyone listening right now, I highly recommend a show called another podcast called Monsters Among Us. The Monsters Among Us podcast is the one that really talks a lot about the mirrored men and stuff. And
that's so interesting. I can't wait to research that. It reminds me almost, just from what you described, almost of like all these new things I'm learning about the Men in Black.
Yes.
That was the first thing that came to my mind for some reason when you said this. So for me, being a medium and having the abilities I have, when a connection just kind of zaps to me like that, I have to research it further to see why that happened, why that popped into my head at that time. So that is something I am definitely going to be looking into, because it's not often I come across something that I've never heard of or never experienced. So
it's really funny that you said that, because every single time I picture the mirrored men, they have like a hat like you would picture the Men in Black.
Yeah, they're just like smooth, right? I don't know why that just popped in. I thought you were talking about something like, like with scrying. I've heard of people recently like accidentally scrying, like they're just brushing their teeth in the mirror and then suddenly they're like having these visions. That's also happening. So a lot to do with seeing things in the mirror, people who've never had abilities before suddenly activating. And I do think it's because everything is this web of connection of consciousness. But the problem is like the universes are layered, in my opinion. So it's so massive. It's like, I don't know if our human brain can ever get every single answer, but I want to get as many as possible. That's for darn sure, but it is massive.
Now, Guy, I know, you've obviously had dealings with these triangle or the triangle craft, and then all of the things that have kind of spun out of, I don't want to say spun out of control, but things and synchronicities and things that happened. Have you ever gotten into anything or had something more on the paranormal side? I get quote unquote, I mean, UFOs and stuff are paranormal enough as it is.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah,
like on the spiritual side, ghosts.
I think I'm kind of unique in as much as, by and large, people who see UFOs, who've seen them repeatedly, which I kind of have, they also have ghost activity and that kind of stuff. I've not had that. I've had kind of insane synchronicities, and I've told you about, I've actually had two like pretty full-blown psychic experiences, which were totally bizarre. I mean, and I've had when Gemma was talking about you and her phone. I think I've told you guys before, I've got a buddy on the East Coast who's seen a lot of UFOs. He's had poltergeist activity in his house. And whenever I try to text the guy on my iPhone, I'll get almost done, some long thing, and it deletes itself and goes crazy. And we have all kinds of electronic weirdness when, I have had two completely full-blown crazy psychic experiences.
What do you mean by psychic?
What's
I'm
that?
sorry to interrupt, but what do you mean by psychic experience? Like what?
I mean, like I went to a wedding reception, and I don't drink, but I was having really, really bad anxiety. And I said to my wife, I said, do you mind if I drink a glass of wine? And 35 years ago, I drank too much, so I don't drink. She said, no, go ahead and have a glass of wine. So I said, 2 glasses of wine. And I'd been introduced to a guy who was the band leader that night by my friend whose daughter was getting married. We were waiting for the reception to get started. He said, Guy, he said, this is, I'm going to use the guy's name. His name's Vic. He said, you're going to like the band, because I was a musician for years. He said, Vic's the band leader. You're going to love this band. I talked to this guy for all of 2 minutes, right? I go and I sit down. About 10 minutes later, I'm talking to my wife at a table. We're sitting outside on this patio. I glance over and I see this guy walking. And I mean, one thing that you said, the way that I've described it is I saw like this cobweb. It was more like a fractal. I keep thinking it's a fractal. I was like an electrical shock. It was in less time than time. I'm talking to Linda. I see this guy and it's just like, whoa. And I jump out of my seat like a schizophrenic and I run up to this guy and say, you've had a really weird close-up UFO sighting, haven't you? And he just stares off into middle space and goes, as a matter of fact, yes, I have. He said, when I was driving down Dirt Highway and when I was 17 years old, there were all these cars pulled over to the side and these people are out of their cars looking up in the air. And I thought, what are they doing? I looked up and about 200 feet in the sky, there's this UFO. He said it looked like a straw hat, except the top was rotating. And I got out and I stood there. He tells me this crazy story and he looks like he's in a trance. And then he turns to me at the end of this and he says, and there was nothing in the Flint Journal the next day, which is just what happened to me. And I mean, we just walked away from each other. And I sat down to my wife and I said, you're not going to believe what the hell I just said to this guy. And she said, why did you say that? And I said, I don't know. I said,
welcome to my world.
I said, what I said to her was, I sat there for a minute and I said, I knew that he knew. Well, there's a little bit more to it. A year and a half before, we'd gone to see something called The Moth, which is a PBS program where ordinary people get up and for 10 or 15 minutes, they tell little stories and they record it at various venues. They put it on NPR. And we went to see that and I smoked. And we got there early by mistake. And there was about 20 people smoking. And I looked over, I walked up to this one guy and said, man, I feel like a hobo, but I parked 5 blocks away. And he says, oh, no, here's a cigarette. And we talked for like five minutes, not even that. And it was this guy, right? And then we went in and saw this show. And when I was introduced to him at the wedding reception, he looked at me and when my buddy introduced me before all this stuff happened, he said, I think I've met you before. And I said, I don't recall having met you ever. And he said, did you go see The Moth about a year and a half ago? And I went, oh yeah, you're the guy that gave me a cigarette. And I said, yeah, I remember you now. Vic, nice to meet you. I'm glad that I'm going to get to hear your band. I remember you said you were a musician. And I told you, but in that first thing, we talked for a minute and a half, in this second thing, we talked for about, 2 or 3 minutes both times. And when I was sitting there at that table, I got to get something to eat. But all of a sudden I saw this like story thing in my head, like, oh, I met him there. I met him here. This is a thing. And I saw like, it was like a fractal. I used to make fun of psychics, man. I
don't tell Gemma that.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, I thought it was, I loved Rondi, the amazing Rondi. And go get him, man. That's all fake. And I mean, where am I at now? In fact, I'm in a group on Facebook with people that have had like really crazy UFO stuff, very well documented. It's only like 150 members. I'm the only one in there that's not famous, right? Hasn't that been in movies or books? And we were in a Zoom meeting the other day and they've heard that story and another one. And I said, look, I'm not psychic. And they all burst into laughter. It's like, that was a pretty psychic experience. I mean, I think the wine relaxed me to the point that I wasn't afraid. I mean, it was just like an electrical shock. I went, oh, I know why I met him down there, and why I met him here. And I get this now. And it's this thing. And there's this cobweb thing that's like one-dimensional and it's all connected. But this is all in, like I said, kind of less time than time.
The sudden understanding, right? Of just like,
exactly.
I've had to work so hard to turn that off because I would approach people with these things that I knew And some people are like, oh my gosh, like you see on TV when, the psychics go up and they're like, hey, your great grandpa's with you and he has a message. Yeah, I've literally gotten punched in the face because I'm like approaching people. So some people don't want to hear it, but that's really interesting that you had that experience, because that is literally my life when I don't block it.
It's interesting. I have to tell you this too. I mentioned it last week. I think we were talking in this after show thing, whatever it is. And this guy,
whatever it is, get off my lawn.
Yeah, I told you suddenly I'm starving, man. I need some to eat. My color's bad. I'm moving towards the light as we speak. But I just lost my entire train of thought, man. What was I just saying?
We're just talking about the fractals and this times that you've had them, and
yeah. I mean, but there was something that was relatively important that I had not mentioned
from last week's show.
Yes.
I don't know. All I know is there is something that happens to me. It happened with a dog years ago. I had this little Chihuahua, and I just tried to write it off. I just tried to bury this stuff. Oh, I remember what I was going to tell you. I was in New York City one time for a week. I played with a band, and we were playing in upstate New York, and we had a week off. We had this big bus. So let's go to the city and just hang around, go clubbing and stuff. So I went down to the city, and we were just goofing off, and they went to some, one of these mediums and paid without asking me. They paid this lady to read my fortune, right? And they were like, we're just looking for fun things to do. And they were insistent that I go in and have my fortune read. And I was like, come on. So I went in and this lady read my fortune. I mean, nothing was right? So I thought this is all fake. But now I've had two of these crazy. I had a dog about 10 years ago. I had this Chihuahua that I just loved. It was like my kid. And my ex-wife had a heart attack, and we were up in the ER for 19 hours before she got into a room. And we'd locked the door. I mean, it's a Chihuahua, right? And all of a sudden at like 3:00 in the morning, I go, there's something wrong with TJ. There's something wrong with TJ. And she was like, what are you talking about? She got all mad and stuff. And she said, you're crazy. You're nutty. You can't remember about that dog. I said, no, there's something wrong with him. She said, you locked him in a house. She said, he's a dog, And I'm like, no, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. And we got in this huge brawl. Anyway, I drove like 8 miles like a madman. I opened up this house where I put this dog in this house. And this little guy, I'm looking all over. I went downstairs. He's not in this house, right? And all I can figure is she had a granddaughter. We had a house across the street, and her granddaughter was living there. And she'd want to use the phone when I wasn't home. Somebody opened that door because that dog wasn't in that house. And I knew it. And it was like that movie where the guy goes out and yells, Stella. It's 3:00 in the morning. I walk out on a porch and I go, TJ. And I look up about a block and a half. This is in the city, man. There's a cross street. There's a street light hanging above in the middle of that intersection. And right dead center in the middle of that intersection he's like a teacup Chihuahua, is TJ. I can't believe he hasn't been hit by a car. And I'm like, TJ, I ran up and I grabbed him. And I mean, I tried to write that off as like, it was pretty weird, I mean, I don't know what that was, but it wasn't like the thing at the wedding reception, but it kind of was. It was kind of like 1 minute I was fine at that hospital. And the next minute I was like, there's something wrong. I gotta go. And she's like, what are you, crazy? And I'm like, so, maybe I'm a little bit psychic. I don't know.
I was gonna say, first off, just one quick thing. Ghost Dragons, I love you. I've got to say this. Wayne, I'm gonna call you Wanye from now on because Wheezy baby. Sorry. Usually
he's been called worse.
Thank you. Can't take me anywhere. People with abilities. First of all, I believe very, very strongly that every single human being is born with not the exact same abilities, but some sort of ability. It's just this conditioning of, monsters are not real, monsters, UFOs aren't real. You didn't actually see that, and some of us just lose it, most of us just lose it. But there's something happening now in the collective where we are kind of shifting from this 3D, the consciousness, to like this 5D type consciousness,
No, I think you're
because
right.
more and more people are awakening. But there are a lot of people who can count on, one hand, the number of psychic experiences that they've had. I'm from Patterson, New Jersey. Yes, I do. The number of experiences they've had that they knew were them connecting to something else, or that something other was happening.
Yeah.
And that just goes to kind of validate for me that even someone can be a non-believer altogether, and that's it. It doesn't matter, because your
Yeah.
brain can't completely turn off to it. And I do believe that even deja vu, in my opinion, from what I've learned from my guides, is like a part of us that remembers writing our chart to come here. And it's like us knowing we're on the right track. That's what deja vu is. Now you can ask someone else and they'll know something different. But for me, so those two experiences you just had, you remember them very vividly. And that's because, for whatever reason, and maybe it was pet parent instinct, because I know with my kids, even the adults, I'm like, I know what's going on no matter what. And that's a lot of parents. So maybe it was just that instinct, that connection, where you and that particular pet had this connection. But people are activating all over the place. I had someone activate in my live stream and like shut the whole thing down. The lights were going off, people's computers were, and from that day forward, she's been having experiences that I've been trying to kind of counsel and help her through. Why did it happen? The same night, Ghost Dragons, who's live with me on Wednesdays, had a trickster and two ETs come out of the sidewall right there on screen. Unfortunately, no one saw it but me and him, but it did happen. And right at that moment, this person in our chat must have just activated. And ever since, it's people are waking up all over the place. So that's kind of just validation that, everyone has the ability. It's just about being open to it. And sometimes we're doing certain things that open us up more,
Let me just say this. I mean, to clarify, I'm a believer now. That episode at the wedding reception was crazy. And I started to say, I don't think I finished this. That guy, who's a very well-known musician around Flint, he will not speak to me now. I mean, and he will not speak to me. I sent him I was afraid to talk to him for a long time, because I felt like I freaked him out. And I sent him a message about a week ago, and he's got a recording studio. And I said, hey, I don't want to bug you about any of that UFO stuff. I don't know what happened in that moment. I know you've got a recording studio, and I'd like to record a little thing on a keyboard for an intro to my YouTube channel. And that's all I said. That was 2 weeks ago. He's never responded. And I could tell, because a buddy of mine, who's the guy whose daughter got married, who's the mutual friend, he was in a car with him like next week. And he said, hey, Vic, I hear you and Guy has some really weird experiences in common. And Vic said, yep, and changed the subject. He doesn't want to talk about any of this. And I know that that would freak me out. What a strange thing to say to somebody. I've never said anything like that to anybody. And I mean, I said it like I knew. I mean, I got right nose.
Because you did.
Yeah, I did. I got this like storyboard that reminded me of a fractal in my head. That was like, oh yeah, I met him there, met him here. I know what this is about. And it's this thing, and this is why we're here. And that I was supposed to meet him, and that's why I met him here. It was like this crazy damn thing. So yeah, what do I not believe this now? It happened to me, I mean, yeah. Now I know that I was purposely turning off certain things, I think, because I didn't want to be weird or something, But I mean, my grandma had this stuff happen. My mom told me about it, and I was like, yeah, right. And I'm like, I didn't want to hear it then. And she had a really strange one. And my mom told me a couple of times, and I was like, yeah, come on, man. Well, I don't know. I think I just wanted to be normal and not, I don't know. I didn't want to sound like a flake.
I turned it off for my 20s. I turned all of my abilities off. And I just say it was the worst thing I ever did, because I just went down like this horrible path of like non-acceptance. And for me, because of the abilities that I have, there's so many, and they come on so strong, that I was so incredibly blessed to stumble upon YouTube because I was bored one day and decided to do a video about literally nothing, like about being bored, thinking I would, just talk to the whoever picks it up. And then to be able to find this whole community where I'm accepted and even somewhat respected for my opinion, my experience, and even people that may not believe or believe in everything that I say still respect me and listen to what I say and take it into consideration and take it or leave it. I've been seeing full-bodied apparitions, I'd tell you, since I was 4, but my parents say since much before, but I don't remember before I was 4 years old. And to turn something like that off for me was like the worst thing I ever did in my life. And I'm just so blessed that now I can just come out and be like, this is me, this is what I can do. And, believe it or don't believe it, but I hope you learn something every time you listen to me talk.
Have you ever seen a UFO? Or
I have not seen a UFO, but I was afraid my entire life for no reason at all of extraterrestrials. I was afraid of anything having to do with outer space, just terrified. And there was no reason for it. I grew up watching horror movies and seeing dead people. So it was just bizarre. But recently, like in the past maybe year and a half, I think it was, I started getting these, like uncovering these repressed memories of like healings and abductions that still aren't fully formed in my head. So I don't have a lot of the information, but I know it's there. And now I'm like on a mission to learn everything that I can, because it seems like every time I learn something new, a little fracture, a little piece of that broken mirror memory comes back. Now I just have to put them together.
It's entirely possible that you've had some form of contact based upon
100%.
Yeah, I mean, because they do. This is a terrible.
I think they put the fear in me to make me not research further, to be honest with you. It only just, I'm going to be 40 in March, and it only started coming when I was like 38, these memories. I never even suspected before that. I just was terrified of outer space.
Well, I know.
March what?
March what?
March 1st?
What's that, her birthday?
My born day.
Okay, yeah. I was going to say,
all of our sightings were in March.
All of them were in March, yeah. I was going to say, people think, well, how could aliens like wipe your memory? And I'm like, this is a terrible example to use, but I'm like, wait till you have your first colonoscopy. They pull the plunger and they pull the plunger, then they tap your arm and you go, yeah, I thought you were going to do this. And they're like, you're all done. I mean, and that's what we can do. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people, I have this theory, I don't think I'm unique at all. I think a lot of people have contact with these other beings, whatever they are. And there's a list of my law. And maybe even get taken out of this thing for a minute, this timeline or the space, and you have no memory. But I'm going to eat some SpaghettiOs for a minute and let you guys solve all the problems of the universe.
You enjoy.
All right, Guy, I'm going to go ahead and just move you out and put you back in the studio. When I see you come back on, we'll bring you back. All right. So, of course, we had to get to the colonoscopy level of doing a live.
SpaghettiOs, he's going to need a colonoscopy. Oh my God, I'm dead.
That was good.
Yeah. Now, Gemma, talking about your fear of UFOs, and I don't remember. I mean, geez, we've done so many of these interviews.
It was outer space in general.
Yeah. Well, here's something strange that happened. When I was teaching science to middle schoolers at the beginning of this year, I had an 8th grade boy who said that he wanted to learn everything. And let me just preface this and say that he was somewhere on the spectrum. Okay, so he might have had a little autism or something like that. He said he was excited to learn all kinds of awesome things about earth science, but he absolutely hated space, and he was afraid of being in space. And that's all he could talk about it. And he actually started to cry while he was explaining this to me. Now, your previous book, I know The Missing, right?
Book 1, Missing the Faith Theory. Yes.
Yes, I got it sitting over here. Did that did that lead you down this road of like the missing 411 and then possibly into abduction cases, or did you kind of get steered away from that?
No, the whole thing with the Fae, I mean, I grew up with them, having encounters and experiences with them, but how that book came along was I was writing, I just popped into my head. I had this dream of the Fae, of a couple of Fae creatures or species abducting small children in the woods. And I had these repetitive, recurring dreams / nightmares for like 3 months. And finally, I went to Steve Stockton and I was like, listen, because I write for Missing Persons Mysteries and head writer for that channel. I said, I've got to write this down. I'm going to get you guys some scripts for some videos about how the Fae could be responsible for some of the missing 411 stuff. And he's like, yeah, great. As I traversed that book, that's kind of when the abduction memories started coming. First it was, sorry, every time my heat goes on, my background moves. It started as like the first I would remember like these healings I would get when I thought, and my parents thought I was having convulsions as a child. It was actually a screen memory of me, these beings doing whatever they were doing, like this Reiki. It looked like Reiki energy stuff. I don't know. But I'm not really sure I understand like what you're asking, but I know that those dreams and nightmares of the Fae abducting people led me into more research into the Fae, which then the UFO and alien memories came to me. And then I was no longer afraid and like I needed to know everything.
Well, I was just wondering if maybe getting into the research of the Fae and those abductions, if it was like you were going more toward the Fae explanation outside because of your not fear, well, I guess fear of UFOs and not wanting to deal with that, and you went into that area.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what I'm
I
getting at.
definitely, yeah, I think I understand now. So I definitely believe the Fae are responsible for some of it. I believe that UFOs are responsible for some of it. Yeah, I would not have been researching or looking into anything having to do with extraterrestrials, UFOs. You can even see like the progression on my channel after that book came out, to where before there was almost nothing or nothing about it. I do believe UFOs are responsible for a large part of it because of some channeling that I've done. I've been told by someone who is part of the missing 411 thing, or I call it the missing phenomenon because I don't know what I'm allowed to say and not say. So I just say missing phenomenon. And from what I understand, it's not just that these people, for the most part, I mean, obviously it's different if they're found deceased, but they're kind of going into not only an alternate dimension from what I was told and what I understand by this missing person who's been missing and went missing in a national park almost 50 years ago, told me when I channeled him that it is extraterrestrial in nature what's happening, and they have on an alternate dimension, but a very similar reality to ours. So for example, say a person who goes missing, they're out camping and they were sitting on a rock with, roasting marshmallows by the fire. And all of a sudden, everyone around them's like, they just randomly disappeared. What actually happened is these aliens chose that person for whatever, these extraterrestrials. And when they get into this alternate dimension, they're like, hey, wait a minute. Like I was just, with my family, and the extraterrestrials like, no, like your family's here. And they're like, no, they're not. So they're basically giving this ultimatum, like you can try to live in this much better, much more enlightened, much more connected reality that we're building and like coding in here, or you can be found deceased on the other side because now we can't let you go. So apparently they don't want to even wipe the memory because it could come back. So it's like you play ball or you die, basically. Is what I understood is happening in a lot of like the cases where the parent literally blinks and the kid's gone. and there's no other clues, you know, or someone turns a bend, 2 feet ahead and they're gone. That's what's happening. There's some reason that these ETs are choosing them for this alternate reality they're trying to create for when this one eventually is destroyed. They're taking, you guys know the smartest people. I don't know where the German heritage plays in there, but that's what I understood about it, which now like makes me look even more into that. Like, how can we get evidence of this, instead of just being like random YouTube medium told us this happened. I even if I channeled live, there would still be not much belief. So, but knowing that and knowing where I got my information and knowing for myself that something like that is going on, I can't in good conscience not at least investigate it, at least try to get it out there and let people know to be more careful, and when you're out in the woods, because it's not something that we can fight back. It's not something we can combat against. It's not something we can do anything about, because, we're definitely the low species or low whatever on the totem pole in the grand scheme of things. And that is 100%. So how do we fight it? I have no idea, but I don't know how I got on that rant, but it scared the crap out of me. And, but now, like, I'm kind of emboldened by the people that support me, the people that believe in me, and just, the confidence I have in myself now. Like, I know what I'm talking about when I walk into the Olive Garden and I know everything that's happening. And the guy, like the table next to me, I know that they're like on their first date and like that guy's, cheating on his wife or like whatever I pick up. I'm confident enough to know it. Now, I don't approach people anymore and tell them what I know, but I'm confident that's like, okay, I know that. I'm going to shut this down now and just get away from this guy's gross cheating energy or whatever and move on. I had a really hard time with that because I wanted to go to people and say, hey, do you know this girl's a, real B word? Or, hey, do you know this guy's a real jerk? And let me tell you what he did. But obviously, like, you can't do things like that because you could end up getting killed.
Yeah. All right, Bert, did you want to jump in?
Actually, yeah, I did. There was something that Gemma mentioned earlier. I'm curious because you said that you think everyone is sort of more or less born with this ability. Sorry. Have you ever heard of oh man, wait, hang on, I wrote it down. Edgar Casey. Have you ever heard of Edgar Casey?
I've heard of him, yes, but I couldn't tell you. Like, I know it has something to do with. I've seen him on Beyond Belief with George Norrie.
Yeah. It was It was like something on History Channel or something that I saw him on, or the first time I ever heard of him, and yeah, he was basically like a meat. I don't know exactly what the exact word is, but like a medium, someone that could.
Wasn't he
read the
tapping
future.
into what they called the Akashic records and learning about Atlantis and everything that was going on?
I
He
think
made
there
a lot of
was.
prophecies too.
I know he's an author. I know that he
Yeah.
writes
Yeah.
books. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
actually digging
there was-
into him a little bit.
There was a bit of that, yes. But what he what I remember from what I saw in that little thing was like he described his experience in that, like, when he would be able to like go into the state more or less, and then someone would ask him a question, and then he would be able to have an OBE, out of body experience, and go somewhere off planet and be able to basically converse with this celestial entity of some kind. And but something that he said that always stuck out to me was that he's like, I'm not special. Every single human being has the ability to do this. It just, for whatever reason, it's easier for me than others, or something like that. But like, everyone has the ability to do this. It's not just him. And that's
Right.
something that he always spoke to a lot too.
I just want to say, like, so on Wednesday nights, I live stream. Anyone that comes in can get one Oracle card. I give them a weekly reading, just to kind of get people pumped about Oracle and about my channel and what I do. But people will say like, thank you, thank you so much. And I'm like, it's not actually me. It's that I'm channeling, and the messages are coming through from either their ancestors, their spirit guides, their higher self sometimes. So I bring all these energies in. I just connect to the person. I connect to people's energy through text message. I do remote readings, but it's not me. And I say that a lot too. I'm not special, except in a way that if it's special, that like I'm just able to do this. It's not anything I had to study for or learn or be super duper smart for. I definitely agree with that. And what you were so the way I describe it like is, if I want to have an out of body experience, and I don't do it often. If I want to astral travel, I should say, and I don't do it that often, to go to like the Galactic Federation or to go and speak with, I'm just learning how to get there and do that because of my lifelong fear of ETs. So, and the Galactic Federation is a thing. Okay. It's definitely exists. It is a thing. They stay right outside of our atmosphere and they're cloaked. So I kind of think of it like, if you think of like your cells, your blood cells and your all the molecules in your body as like plugging into a light source. So a lot of people know how to put like the light in the center and then like spread it throughout your body and push it out. A lot of people, like I teach people how to do that to like protect yourself. But if I sit there and I, do a little deep breathing, and I think of every single cell, every single tiny little cell in my body being individually lit up like a bright, a house with too many Christmas lights in each little cell. And then all of those cells connecting, it just, I wish I can teach people how to do it, because it just lights my whole body up and then out I go. Now, my thing is, the few times I've done it, like controlling where I go. That's why I always make sure I have like a guide with me, because I do believe shadow entities jump into astral travelers' bodies, and I have a whole theory with the BEK on that. And but yeah, it's not, like I said, I didn't have to study for it. I didn't have to work for it. So to me, it's a special thing for me to be able to give messages to people and help them in any way that I possibly can, to have better lives or to understand the things that are happening better. But I'm not special in any possible way, because I do believe that everyone has it. It's just a matter of how connected are we to it. I definitely agree. For sure.
Yeah. Ghost Dragon put something up here. Einstein meditated to a flicker from a candle. And, to me, it sounds like meditation. And, these kind of things are shifting our consciousness in a certain way. Do you know where we're going when we're doing these things? Like, so for instance, let me just a little bit of background. I've done martial arts for, 30 years. I taught all kinds of people different types of martial arts and things like that. And whenever I would spar or do any of that kind of stuff, I literally would enter what the Japanese would call a Zanshen type of mindset, which means just empty mind. The more your mind is blank or in that meditative like state, the more relaxed you are, the quicker you can respond to things. And it would get to a point where I would see people moving in slow motion. Like I would literally see them. And then what was funny is seeing the movie The Matrix and them using the bullet time type of stuff. I'm like, Jesus, they're like right in my head. And then it got to a point where we would do grabs and locks and throws and things like that. I could feel people grabbing me in the arm or grabbing my neck or whatever when we were practicing. I would feel it before it would even actually physically touch me. And so in my mind, I'm thinking this is like an elevation of consciousness that puts us in this like ultimate awareness of things around us. I don't know, Gemma, can you kind of talk to that? And I don't know, are there parallels to this? how they're the same, how they're different. And I've heard this from like regular athletes as well. You know, cross country runners get into a mind state of running, of complete relaxation, and you know, they don't even think about they've been running for 10 miles or 20
Right.
miles. You know, it's like a loss of time.
Right. And I do believe that for me, in my experience and from what I've learned from my guides, is that it is different. So, like I said before, everyone could have the same abilities, but it's what's activated in them. So, for me, my ability to communicate with spirit and to bring messages through to someone else, you know, it might be seeing the future without cards, you know, whatever. So, we all have the ability. It's just which part of us is activated. So, I kind of liken it to that. So with martial arts, the meditative state that you go into, yes, it's the same type of meditative state as someone who's a long distance runner who also goes into these meditative states, but it's all a matter of what part of you, which cells in your body, so to speak, are lit up, just to use my analogy from before. I don't know if that's actually what's happening, but that's what I see in my head. So for me, as far as the first thing you said was kind of like, where are we going? And I always bring a guide with me. And usually I think when people astral travel, from what I've heard from other people, is that they do see other beings around that they recognize as guide. So once you get into this meditative state, I don't know yet how to really control where I'm going, except to think while I'm meditating on if I want to go to the Galactic Federation, if I would love to be able to astral travel, you know, to so-and-so's house and see what they're up to at 3 a.m, because but I don't know how all of that works just yet. As far as like, I just know that for me, whatever I'm focusing on, wherever I'm focusing on, when I'm lighting myself up and in that meditative state, I ask my guides beforehand to bring me and during to bring me. And normally it's to get information, honestly, for someone else at this point. But, you know, it's so different. Like I said, it really depends on which cells are activating in you. You know, they could talk about runner's high as well. And I think it's not really a high. It's a meditative state. And I am going to be experimenting with meditating while using my son's Oculus to see where I can go there, not as far as the game goes, but as far as where can I bring myself to with such an intense, in-depth visual, audio, and, you know, me doing the spiritual stuff, like all three of those combined, like I can't imagine where I'm going to be able to travel to and what I'm going to be able to uncover and find out. And it's just, I see these people that like, they can go into a meditative state right now, astral travel to the Galactic Federation and come back with an answer to your question. Like, I want to get there. I want to get to that point where I'm like, oh, you want to know that? Hold on. Let me go ask, you know, so-and-so from the Pleiadian stars, you know, Pleiades. Okay.
Right.
And like 2 seconds later, I'm there. That's the level I'm trying to get at.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're at about 2 hours. We're just about there. So we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. So Gemma, definitely want to thank you for coming on. And I want to play something for everybody if they haven't been on our channel and seen this yet. So let me go ahead and do if I can find it here.
I was going to say, Gemma, with our next episode, get ready to talk about curses.
Oh, I'm ready.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and Wayne, I should have said tonsillectomy.
That is synchronistic right now, because I've actually had someone accuse me of cursing something I sent them as a gift. And I'm like, I don't need to spend money to curse you. I need a little bit of blood and something you touched. Like, yeah, I'm ready.
All right. I'm trying to find our little thing here that I did. Here we go. Okay. So for everybody wondering why Gemma, you know, I wanted to have Gemma come on and stuff, it is because she is going to be joining us on our next podcast, which will be this Saturday. we're going to record the interview this week and then get it all put together. So this is what I want to just show everybody right quickly here. Here we go. All right, everybody, take a listen. Ooh. And of course it's gonna, want to do all that good stuff, but
I love it.
So, yes. So very happy that you're going to be coming back on. We can dig deeper into your experiences in your book and just all kinds of fun stuff. So, all right, Guy, before we go, any last minute things you want to say?
Well, just what I sent you in the private chat, I said, you got to remember I'm old and weirdly honest. I should have used the example of a tonsillectomy. At least you can know when I tell you I saw a UFO from 125 foot. I'm not making it up. You know what I mean? It's no, it was very interesting, and I enjoyed Gemma's portion of it. It's I think I need to open my mind. I'm much more open than I used to be. There's a lot of interconnectedness with these. Thought it interesting too that she mentioned the Galactic Federation, because there was a guy from Israel that said high-ranking official there had been a senior official in their defense department, and said that it's a thing, and people made fun of him. I mean, like this guy who's like 78 years old is going to make this up, I mean, it's preposterous. But anyway, enjoyed it, and I'll have to check out your thing.
All right, so Ghost Dragon keeps on asking Gemma to pull a card for Guy before he leaves.
Probably gonna say your color's bad. And
all right, so we'll see Gemma at work here and how this goes. Right. But I do want to say, Rick, next Saturday will be an audio podcast only that will go out. To all the platforms. So that'll be out Saturday, probably. I'm hoping it should all be done and everything by Saturday morning. So sometime around 8 a.m. Eastern or so. So our next live show, though, will be in 2 weeks from now. All right. So, Gemma.
All right. So I used the Moonology Manifestations. And I pulled a card for you for like a weekly reading. This is what I do on Wednesday nights, Ghost Dragons and myself. He is my lovely co-host, but I pull one card and I give someone a weekly reading. So here you go. And I'm getting a cold. I apologize. So it's New Moon in Pisces. And the card is Attune to the Divine. You have the opportunity to slip into the flow of life now. When that happens, you want what is happening, and what is happening is what you want. Your manifesting is working perfectly. Just make sure that you stay attuned to your higher self, and you'll be well on your way to feeling blissfully happy and in tune with your dreams. Meditation is the best way to connect with your higher self. Now, I shuffled in front of the camera, guys, if you guys didn't see that, okay? So practice it if you know how, or try learning from an online instructional video. Above all else, be kind to yourself and others. This card is an especially good sign for matters related to spirituality, contacting other realms, taking some time out, or dealing with a fear. The more you can believe that all is well, the more all will be well for you. And your manifestation affirmation for this week is, my conscious dreams create my reality. So what this is saying is that for this week, maybe you do want to take some things that we've discussed here that maybe you haven't considered before, or some things that are going to be coming to you in this week, or that have just come to you recently, where synchronicities maybe you've put together, or things that you're looking more into researching into. And I do think this has a lot to do with synchronicity for you. Like, for instance, attuning to the divine. We were just talking about meditation, tuning into your higher self. But if you're coming from a place, any place inside of you, with anything that comes up from a place of fear, it's not going to work out well, because when you come from a place of fear, you pull in these energies and entities that like to feed off of our fear, like shadow entities, demons, tricksters, the list goes on and on. So for this week, I would pay very close attention to any little things that happen, like big, like what you said happened at the wedding, or just small thoughts that pop into your head, like if you're walking down the street, you know, things are going to come to you if you pay attention to be able to make the connection, but always come from a place of love and kindness. And when people react out of fear, do your very best to understand that everyone's coming from a different place. Because I do feel like you could have some, what is it called? It begins with an R, some like refusal from others to understand what you're going through. And it's okay to accept that not everyone's going to understand the level that you're at. Not everyone's going to understand or believe in what you're doing. Connect to your higher self, focus on your higher purpose. And that's going to get you through the week without any kind of fear or without pulling anything in. Era, Kira, Laura, I'm so sorry. I'm not good with pronouncing. I'm from New Jersey. I butcher everything. But I do this Wednesday nights from 7:15 p.m. Eastern time all the way to 11:30 p.m. Eastern time. And you can either donate or not. So come on in and get a card off my channel. Because I know you guys are wrapping up, but I have over 100 decks. I randomly pull them, and I do it for anyone and everyone who comes in. And if you're there for the first time, you don't have to wait in the really long line, because I skip the newbies up to the front.
And Ghost Dragon said it, man. She nails it all the time, man. I mean, it was creepy when she did a reading for Michelle one time, and her ear starts to get red and hot. And
it is. It's so funny you said that, because they're just starting to burn.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, I just got to ask you, you're from New Jersey. You're not from Cherry Hill, are you?
No, I'm from a little bit more north, but I've been to Cherry Hill. It's not far from me.
I don't want any more synchronicities than I need here, so spend some time in Cherry Hill. That's what I wanted.
So have I.
All right, Burton. Any last comments as we close out here?
Honestly, not really. It was just a really great pleasure to get to meet you, Gemma. I found you through when Michelle's podcast. That was the first time I ever heard you, and since then I've been a fan.
Thank you.
Much like you know, a lot of the people they have on are people that I either already am somewhat familiar with or have never heard of, and I end up becoming a fan. And so yeah, it was just a really great pleasure to get to talk to you tonight, and to get to meet you. And yeah, I love everything that you do. So yeah, definitely.
All right, so Gemma, one more time, tell people where they can find you and the new book and all that good stuff.
Okay, so I'm on my YouTube channel. It's just Gemma Jade. There are a few Gemma Jades. I have sunglasses on, and I think I'm the only one, and I'm also the only one covering the paranormal. And I was recently on the Paraflix Network, Disembodied Voices, with Dr. Kelly Renee Schutz, a 2-hour show, season 3, episode 6. Again, it's Paraflix. And the new book is Shadow Entities, Sleep Paralysis, and Beyond. And it explores sleep paralysis, but it does focus more on the paranormal side, the fact that they could be feeding on us. And I talk about several different types of shadow entities. That's really where you can find me right now, kind of bouncing all around and trying to get myself out there, get my name out there more. But my YouTube channel is it.
Yeah.
And I write for Missing Persons and Mysteries. I'm the head writer for there as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. She has all kinds of information on there, and man, Black-Eyed Children, and man,
that's the next book.
oh, awesome. We'll have to touch on that a little bit again. All right. Well, Guy, Burton, Gemma, it was great having you on.
Thank you.
I'm going to say a couple of closing words here, but I'm going to send you guys off to the green room, and thank you. And Gemma, we'll talk to you soon.
Sure will.
All right. See you, Guy. See you, Burton. All right, Gemma, we'll talk soon. All right, Michelle.
I'm looking forward to the next podcast to talk about sleep paralysis and curses.
Absolutely. I mean, come on. That is so awesome.
Burton's going to love the next after the cast.
Yeah. Well, you know, again, a big shout out to Ghost Dragon for the donations of the 3 coffees. Man, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. We had Laura Ann from Germany. Obviously Ghost Dragon, Rick Davis was here, and everybody that watched. Man, we really appreciate it. And again, if you want to support the podcast or this live show, which we're going to do bi-monthly or twice a month in between audio podcast, all the links are down in the description. We have a merchandise store if you're interested. But again, the best way to help us out, honestly, is just share us out there and just share us out, like the videos, subscribe. And with that being said, Michelle,
Have a
any
great
last
night,
words?
everyone.
Oh, there's the famous last words. Yes, have a great night. And remember, keep those eyes to that sky.